A Chinese lab just dropped a 198 billion parameter mixture of experts vision model that activates only 11 billion params per token, scores 67 on ClawVal, which is first place, and costs 20 cents per million input tokens. It's Apache 2.0 fully open, and it hit 100% tool call success in independent testing. Okay, so Step 3.7 Flash from StepFund, released May 29th, 2026. 198 billion total parameters, 11 billion active per token, which means it's a sparse MOE with about 5% activation, even sparser than DeepSeek. It ships in 4 formats on Hugging Face: BF16, FP8, NVFP4, and GGUF, live on the StepFund platform, OpenRouter, and NVIDIA NIM the day it launched. Deep Infra, Fireworks, and Modal coming soon, all under Apache 2.0. Genuinely open, no asterisks. This is the third entry in the Step 3 line. Step 3 launched July 2025. Step 3.5 Flash came February 2026, text only. Step 3.7, Flash is the first multimodal model in the Flash family with a 1.8 billion parameter vision encoder bolted onto the 196 billion language backbone. And the headline thing is not the benchmark, it's the cost. 20 cents per million input tokens, $1.15 output, 4 cents on a cache hit. For comparison, GPT 5.5 is $5 input, 30 output. That's a 25 times input cost difference, and the model is competitive on agentic benchmarks, which is, low-key, kind of insane. So how does it actually work? There are 3 things going on here that you need to understand. First, sparse mixture of experts. The model has 198 billion total parameters living on disk, but for any single token, only about 11 billion of them actually fire. A small router network looks at each token and picks which subset of expert blocks should handle it. Step 3.7 is even sparser than DeepSeek 5.4 Flash. DeepSeek activates 37 billion of 671 billion total. Step 3.7 activates 11 billion of 198 billion. That's a 5.6% activation ratio versus DeepSeek's 5.5. Comparable sparsity at less than a third of the total params, which means lower memory bandwidth requirements, faster decode, cheaper hosting. On a Hopper GPU, the decoding cost is roughly 6 times lower than DeepSeek v3.2 at 128,000 context. Kimi K2 is 19 times more expensive to decode. GLM 4.7 also 19 times. Step 3.7 is just way ahead on cost per token. Second, native vision input. The 1.8 billion parameter vision encoder pipes image embeddings directly into the language backbone. No separate model, no tool call. The model sees pictures the same way it sees text. This matters because the design target isn't chat. It's agentic workflows, coding agents that read screenshots, research agents that scrape web pages with embedded charts, customer support flows where a user pastes an error screenshot. Native vision means none of that requires a separate VLM call. Third, 3 selectable reasoning levels: low, medium, high. Same flag pattern as Qwen 3 and Nemotron 3. You tell the model how hard to think before answering. On low, it answers fast for chat and simple tools. On medium, it pauses to plan multi-step actions. On high, it runs an extended chain of thought before any output, which is where the agentic benchmark numbers come from. It's a dial, not a flag. You can match latency budget to task complexity without swapping models. Okay, let's talk benchmarks. This is where it gets weird. On SWE Bench Pro, which is the contamination-resistant coding benchmark, Step 3.7 Flash scores 56.3%. That puts it 15th out of 35 models. Mid-pack, but beating DeepSeek v4 Flash and Gemini 3.5 Flash on a leaderboard that punishes data contamination. On ClawVal 1.1, which tests realistic daily agent tasks, it scores 67.1, first place. On Tualathon, the multi-tool orchestration benchmark, 49.5. On Tau2 Bench Telecom, over 98% across reasoning tiers. On HLE with tools, Humanity's Last Exam, 47.2, beats DeepSeek v4 Flash. On DeepSearch QA, 92.8, beats Kimi K2, 6. On Research Rubrics, 71.7, beats GPT 5.5 at 61.5. On BrowseComp, 75.8, behind Claude Opus 4.7, quotes 79.3, but in striking distance. And the wild part is how stable the agentic numbers are across coding scaffolds. Hermes Agent 67.5, OpenClaw 67, KiloCode 67.5, RuCode 64.5, OpenCode 64.5, Claude Code 71.5 versus Step 3.5 Flash, which had massive variance, sometimes 43, sometimes 73. Step 3.7 is consistent. Where's the catch? Couple places. First, the SWE bench verified number of 76.5% that StepFun put in their blog. That benchmark has known training data contamination issues. The real signal is SWE Bench Pro at 56.3, which is much more honest. Second, 11 billion active parameters does not mean 11 billion memory footprint. You still need enough memory to hold all 198 billion params at FP8 minimum, roughly 200 gigabytes of VRAM. So 3 or 4 H100s or 1 DGX Spark, not a 4090 model. Third, several of the headline numbers like Toolathlon and Terminal Bench 2.1 are vendor stated and not yet on independent leaderboards. The 100% tool call success rate is real, but from one third-party review, not a wide study. Take the vendor numbers as directional, not as gospel. What changes from here? A few things. For people building agents, this is potentially the new price floor for capable open-weight models. 20 cents per million input, 4 cents on cache hit. At those numbers, agent loops that previously cost dollars per run cost cents. Long horizon agent workflows just got economically viable for products that couldn't justify it before. For the open model ecosystem, this is more evidence that Chinese labs are converging on a winning recipe. Aggressive sparsity, around 5% activation, open weights, Apache 2.0, multimodal native, agentic post-training, DeepSeek, Kimi, GLM, Qwen, Mistral, Minimax, and now StepFun are all roughly aligned on this playbook. For coding workflows specifically, this is the first open model that scaffolds consistently. Most open models do well on one harness and tank on another. Step 3.7 sits between 64 and 72 across 6 different agent frameworks, which means you can pick your framework based on ergonomics, not on benchmark gaming. Quick caveats, sanity check. It's not frontier on raw reasoning. Claude Opus 4.7 and GPT 5.5 still win at the top of the leaderboards. Vision benchmarks are present, but not where the model is strongest. The Apache 2.0 license is real, but most of the training data is still closed. And the 256,000 context, while solid, is half what Nemotron 3 Ultra ships. Honestly though, the thing that matters about Step 3.7 Flash is the price per agentic run, not any single benchmark. Frontier adjacent quality at 1/10 the cost of GPT 5.5, fully open, no vendor lock-in. The bar for what counts as good enough open weights for production agents just moved, and the gap between the best closed model and the best open model keeps shrinking, faster than anyone expected a year ago. If you would like to hear and see the latest news about LLMs, then like and subscribe.